With my experience and your ambitions, let's navigate the world of business, making informed choices and capitalizing on every opportunity. Welcome to Profit or Pitfall. This is episode 13, and we're going to be talking today about tax deeds and just kind of some investing basics. If you're watching the market right now, you're seeing properties, particularly office, being sold at significant discounts, pennies on the dollar. However, these might be out of the reach for someone who doesn't have $5, $10, $20 million to negotiate with the lender and the owners and get them out of hot water. And buying tax deed is a type of real estate investment that involves purchasing the deed to an actual property at a tax deed sale or an auction. And these can be below $1 million, even a few $1,000s if you're in the right market. And I thought it would be good to kind of share what's going on behind the scenes, because it is possible to potentially find some good opportunities, but you have to work pretty hard to make it happen. And to give you a little bit of background, the sale occurs because the property owner has not paid their real estate taxes that they owe to the local property tax collector. And so the process generally works like this. There's a tax lien and notice. When property taxes go unpaid, the local government places a tax lien on the property. And the property owner is given a notice and a period during which they can pay back the taxes plus interest and penalties. And if the owner fails to pay within this redemption period, the government will move forward with a tax deed sale. And the important distinction here is that unlike tax lien certificates, which are a claim against the taxes due, a tax deed sale results in the actual sale of that property. So the local government will auction the property to recover those unpaid taxes. And the auction can be held as a public in-person event or online. There's a couple of different websites out there where you can register. You pay $3,000, $5,000 as a deposit. And then they let you know when that property is being auctioned. There may be a reserve, and then you kind of compete for a certain number of hours or days. And then hopefully you are the winner. But the bidding and purchase is usually the bidding price starts at covering the back taxes that are owed, maybe some interest and penalties, and the administrative costs that the county or whoever's the tax collector is charging. The highest bidder wins, and the deed is given to the winner of the property. And when it comes to ownership and rights, buying a tax deed gives the investor ownership of that property. Now, the process for obtaining clear title can vary by jurisdiction. Some states offer what's called the redemption period to the original owner, even after the tax deed sale, during which they can reclaim the property by paying the amount owed plus some interest. And that's to the person who won the auction. So if the original owner doesn't redeem the property within this period, then the investor can take full possession and may need to take some additional steps to clear the title. Here in California, there is no redemption period. If you win the auction, the property is yours. So there's some investment considerations to think about. Investing in tax deeds can be pretty lucrative, but also comes with a lot of risks. It's essential to research the properties thoroughly, understand the local laws regarding tax deed sales, and be aware of any additional liens or encumbrances that might affect the property. Additionally, the condition and the location of the property can significantly impact the value and the potential return on the investment. When it comes to clearing title, in some cases, investors may need to go through a legal process called quiet title action to remove any claims or disputes on the property's title. And that ensures that it's free and clear for sale or development, whatever it is you're hoping to do with that property. Investing in tax deeds can offer opportunities to acquire that property at below market values, but it does require a lot of due diligence, understanding the legal and tax implications, and sometimes a readiness to invest additional time and resources to clear that title and make that property marketable. So I wanted to take the time to kind of show you an actual auction that just occurred a couple of weeks ago here in Los Angeles County. And as you can see here, what I did was, one is you register for the site, like I mentioned. You put your $5,000 deposit. And the first thing is to do is you got to do your research, and there's a massive amount of files that you have to kind of pour through and decide what kind of investor you are. And what I did was I was pretty specific about the areas that I did and didn't want to look at, and also the type of property. Land is a very, very unique way to invest, because if you don't know how to entitle it, for example, how to get yourself through that process, it can be pretty intimidating. I'm familiar with it because I started out in design build construction when I was in college, and then moved into the finance world, but I had a certain comfort level. But I looked at single family homes, I looked at condominiums, but in very specific places, because they're places that I know. And other places I just said, okay, no, we're not looking at those. And so the first thing that we did was we downloaded all this information, which was, you would get the auction ID, the minimum bid, the parcel number, the property address, and then we would pull down improvement data, the land value data. And then here, as you can see, what I did was I didn't create a formula. Excel lets you create a formula, which is, instead of going to Google Maps and typing in each address, for example, you type in hyperlink, and then you put in google.com and the maps, and then a query, and then you point it to the particular cell, right? In this case, this is E2. And that way, voila, you can basically just copy that hyperlink instruction and dump it down into the whole your data set, and that way you can very quickly start looking at property. And I put some notes here, like this place was a massage place, wanted to be careful about that. This was this was Beverly Hills. This was a junk lot that for transportation. This was a junk yard, like for a mechanic. So these were things that would help me. Here was one that was a lot that was burned down. Let me zoom, go do a street map here. This one I remember pretty distinctly. I don't know if I can go in the way back machine. Yeah, you see, let's go back. Look at that. There was a fire. This was back in 2015. So this property's been out of commission for a minute. So you can kind of see, look, those nice little property. Looks like they, did a renovation, and then in 2015 it burned down. And then for a number of years, it sat there, and then it turned into a vacant lot. And then, it got worse. And so to me, I was excited about this property because it was, a potential opportunity here. But as you can see, the minimum bid was $121,000 and change. And there was a $460,000 first. And so, I thought that, probably going above 150 was, probably where I wanted to stop, just in terms of giving myself room to be able to do whatever improvement that needed to be done there. And, it looks like it sold, or maybe the person who owns the property was able to recover it. But you see the green, and then you see the red. And the red is important because this is the part that makes it very competitive, which is, one, you don't know the story that's going on on that property, right? It could be somebody's ill, somebody's lost their job, a lot of things that aren't the things you don't always want to talk about in a situation. But it's how you create opportunity, right? So like here, this property on Friar Street in Van Nuys, they owed $306,000. And the value, just the land, was 1.3, and the property is worth about 2.1. It looks like this was like a single family residential, also commercial. So let's see if we can do a street view here. I'll have to come back to that one, but I remember looking at this one earlier. And so, as you can see, it was there was $1 million first. They had a significant amount of money due for property taxes, and this is red. What does that mean? It means it was withdrawn. And what that means is that the person or the lender said, hey, I'm not trying to lose my property. I'm going to pay my back property taxes. Or the lender stepped in and said, hey, you've been getting these notices, you're not taking care of your property, so we're going to pay it because we're not trying to get wiped out by a guy like Marcelo who's trying to buy the property at a big old discount. We're going to pay those taxes so we can keep our first trust deed of $1 million, and then they'll deal with them at a later time. Maybe they'll foreclose on them, or maybe even put it into their loan amount. Put it into an escrow account and say, okay, look, you want to keep your property? You're going to pay your monthly payment, plus you're going to pay us, these taxes that are due over the next 2 or 3 years. Or maybe they'll end up selling the property. But as you can see, there's a lot of red, which means that I did all this work, and I was only able to bid on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe less than 10 properties, and I didn't get any of them. I had a very specific, number that I was not going to go above, because I wanted a margin of safety in terms of how I was going to do this, because you're kind of going out, looking at these sight unseen. You're not going to drive to Lancaster and Gardena and Whittier and all these different cities. It's just not going to happen. So you're someone taking a risk. You got to create that margin of safety. So this is how tax deeds work. I think that in this particular county, Los Angeles, because it's so dense and because it's so valuable, just in terms of there's not a lot of space here. You see the crisis we have with housing, that everybody's trying to build ADUs. They're trying to maximize every density that's available to them. We see a lot of unhoused people in the streets, in their campers. So there's other things going on there. And so I think it's a lot more competitive compared to when I participated in the the Kern County auction, which occurred in March. That one was as competitive, but you saw a lot more properties that either didn't even get bid on, but I could see why. They were just kind of in places that you really had to have a good eye or be a developer to say, okay, I'm going to buy this and entitle it and spend the money, and sit for maybe 1 or 2 years while I get those entitlements done, and then figure out the construction capital to get it done. It's a much longer time horizon versus maybe buying a house, doing some paint and carpet and selling it. So I hope that was helpful. I think there's a lot of opportunities that are coming to the market right now. You're seeing, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, offices are being sold for pennies on the dollar. And you may see more of that, maybe even in multifamily. There's a lot of what they call pretend and extend, where you're able to negotiate with the lender to say, okay, we're just going to extend your loan for another year for a fee. And hopefully the market will have returned. But there's definitely a lot more pain coming. So if you are in a situation with your business partners, your investor partners, and you need to right size that capital stack, you need to figure out some type of solution, we're here to help. We have been receivers, we have been partition referees in partition actions, but more importantly, we have all kinds of capital solutions available in this very difficult market. So please don't hesitate to give us a call, and we can take a good look at your situation and figure out a great way to right size the stack. Thanks so much. We appreciate when you watch Profit or Pitfall. We'll see you soon.